Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to be about taro. Taro is a staple crop for a huge amount of people on this planet, but in the United States most people are not even aware that it exists. Now, I've done several videos about taro in the past, one specifically about taro, and I have mentioned taro several times in my video permaculture walk-arounds. But today we're going to show you what this stuff looks like before you plant it and what to be looking for. Now, taro comes in several sizes. It can be about the size of a golf ball, or it can be huge, like the size of a softball and about that long, maybe a foot long. But in the United States, an invasive species of taro grows in a lot of ditches. We'll talk about that in a little while, how to identify this stuff. And that stuff is inedible, basically because the roots are only about as big around as my little finger. By the time you peel the husk off of it, there's nothing left. You can still eat the stems if you boil them, but you can't eat any of this stuff raw because it has oxalic acid in it, which will really mess you up. And you have to either ferment them or heat them until those acids break down into their basic elements, which are not poisonous at all. Now, when I purchased my taro, the only two places I've ever purchased it are at nurseries marketed as gigantic or mammoth elephant ears, or at Asian grocery stores. Now, the elephant ears that they sell at like a Walmart or Lowe's in general are going to be the great big ones, and they're going to be ready to plant, not a problem. But if you go to an Asian grocery stores, a lot of times in order to make the roots look good, they'll cut the tops and bottoms off, which kills them and makes them unviable. This is what you're going to look for. If you go to the Asian market, try to find one that has a little green stem on it. That little green stem is going to tell you that that's alive and ready to go into the ground. Now, a lot of the ones I'm planting today don't have that green stem, but I'm not worried about that because these were dug out of the ground just a few days ago. So they are alive. Nobody has cut them up to make them look better. When I put them in the ground, I can rest assured that in a short amount of time, I'm going to have taro plants growing in my yard. Where I'm going to plant this stuff today is in this dry stream bed or creek bed or natural ditch, whatever you want to call it, because it just so happens that it's dry. You can't really do a whole lot of planting when the thing is full. Now, I didn't just go run down and purchase this taro because my creek bed was dry. I'm an opportunistic gardener, and so it just so happens that someone was at the market with this locally grown taro, and I have a friend that works at the market that calls me anytime somebody shows up with taro, and basically the day that they brought it is the only day I could purchase it. So even though there are better times of the year to be planting this stuff, basically you got to plant it when you can get it. But it is better to put this in the ground just before spring if you can get a hold of some viable taro roots, so that way it can get firmly established before the freeze. Taro always dies back in cold weather, but it returns the next year. But if you put it in the ground right before a freeze and it doesn't get an opportunity to put out roots or put out its stem, it can rot in the ground, which is not a good result, but it's not bad, because even taro that doesn't grow can be used as fertilizer, which is basically what you get when your taro dies under the ground. Now, I'm going to show you how to plant taro, not because there's any tricks to it, but just so you can understand exactly how little is involved in getting this right. If you have ever in your life used a shovel, then you already know how to plant taro. You just take a little dirt out of the ground, and you put your taro in. Now, I've already explained that this green tip is the top, and any white roots you have are going to be the bottom. And so if you want to plant this stuff right, then you need to put it in so that it is oriented that way. That's a kindness to the plant. But since I got a bad back, kindness to me is just to plant it however it falls, because I can't really be bending down there every time that I do this. And here's another one. I'm putting the stem in. But I have, in the past, intentionally planted this stuff upside down and marked it and gone back, and it was growing just fine. And I had actually read on the internet that that's not a problem. And like I say, it's hard for me to bend over. You know, I'm not just a sissy, it really is hard. And a lot of my subscribers are in my same condition, so you understand what I'm talking about. But we're basically going to put this stuff so that it's got enough room to spread out. I'm actually trying my best to plant this whole ditch bed in taro. And so, every time somebody has some for sale, or every time I see any at the Asian market that looks okay, I'm going to buy it. And I'm going to keep doing that until I feel like I got enough for me and all my friends. Now, honestly, when you're planting this stuff, if you want it to be planted exactly the way it's going to grow, like, okay, here is the tip. In general, when you find this stuff growing wild, the dirt is right about to here. You'll actually see the top of the bulb, but that's not important. You can put this stuff upside down that deep and it will find a way out. There's a lot of energy in this bulb, so this plant does not have to immediately get sunshine in order to live. It will live off of the stored energy in the bulb until it reaches the sun. I was actually a little skeptical about planting this taro because it was so close to fall, but my friend who was raised on a farm in Taiwan that grew taro assured me that we had plenty of time for this stuff to get growing, get some roots in the ground, get settled in before a hard freeze. And so I put it in, and I'm glad I did. It's been about a month, and maybe not even a month. And you can see this is pretty big. Let me see if I can get my hand down in here so you can see the size of it. This is actually bigger than my hand, and that's from a month ago. I actually believe that every single root that I planted came up. So the stuff I got at the Asian market was viable. And when I put this in the ground, I asked my friend if I needed to clear out any of the foliage so that more sunlight could get in, and she said no. Taro does good in direct sunlight or in the shade, but it actually does better in some shade. It doesn't like to be in direct sunlight all day long. So this is going to be a really good place for this to grow, hopefully. I think that the first place I planted taro was right here. And these plants, you can see, everywhere there's a cluster was originally just one taro root, but that over time they've become many taro roots, and they just keep spreading out. It's probably a good idea to spread all the ones you plant out. If you plant them all together, it'll look really cool the first couple of years, but then after that, everything's going to get too crowded, and it's going to take a long time for it to grow outside of its area. So this is the result. This is something I planted, and I put them all about 2 feet apart. You can see them growing through there. I've actually got some growing in the woods. I planted some on a lot of different lots belonging to other people. And hopefully one day we'll have acres of this stuff. And you can plant it, like if you've got stuff planted out in the swamp, like I've got mayhaws that grow in the swamp, and I've got mulberries and persimmons, and you can plant all of this stuff right up to the roots. The trees will not cause any problems for your taro, and your taro will not cause any problems for the trees. Their roots are not going to be at the same level. They're not going to be competing for nutrition. And as I said, the taro will not put shade on your trees, which may not want shade. And the shade that you get from the trees on the taro is actually good for the taro. So you can actually be getting 2 crops off the same piece of land. This area was in need of a little maintenance recently, and it was an opportune time for me to get in here with my mower, and I cut everything down in here, including all of these taros. This stuff was completely mowed down, and yet it came back. I actually have planted some of our local taro, which we call elephant ears, which is inedible and unusable, at my mom's house when I was just a child, and she still complains about how every time she mows it comes back. So taro is it's pretty durable. You can put it anywhere that it'll grow and not worry about damaging it, because no matter what you do, it comes back. This area is completely overgrown because when the stuff was small enough for me to mow, it was too wet and the mower was sinking. And once it dried up, then the shrubbery was too dense for me to cut. But as I've walked through this, there is taro all in here that is growing, even with these weeds overrunning it. This taro is actually some that I purchased at Walmart. And if you look at it, you can see it's no longer just one plant. But each one of these clusters started off as one bulb. That was one bulb maybe 3 years ago, and you can see the tops of the bulbs right there. When you purchase this, it's called mammoth elephant ears or gigantic elephant ears. You will not find the word taro anywhere on the label, because in this country it's always marketed as a decorative or ornamental plant, not as a food plant. What I just threw down there is chicken manure out of my chicken house, and there it is. That is some of the best fertilizer you can get. But we're about 300 feet upstream from where I planted that taro just now, and the reason for that is when this thing's holding water, it always flows, and in fact sometimes it flows really fast. And I've always heard my whole life that chicken manure was too hot to put on directly on your crops, but of course I had to find out for myself. So I have filled a growing bed with chicken manure and planted seeds, and everything that was growing in there died and the seeds never sprouted. And so yeah, you don't put chicken manure directly on your crops. So this 300 feet will give us a little bit of room between the nutrients and taro. But once the water starts flowing, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I've seen taro growing where there absolutely is nothing in the soil, just dead dirt. So I know it'll do good in any environment. But my friend, who used to live on a farm where they raised taro, said that they would fertilize heavily, which makes them have, as she calls it, more babies. So it's a good idea if you're growing taro just to put something in the water every now and then. And you don't have to plant this stuff in a creek. You can plant it anywhere, but it has to be relatively moist because taro does not like dry ground. Since taro root is a major staple crop of a lot of nations, there is a lot of information that you can find on taro root. Probably can find people selling different varieties that may be better than what I'm getting. But it's just, and this is not a good choice for somebody that lives up north. Taro freezes and it dies down here, but it always comes back. But if you plant it up like in zone 7 or 6, it freezes and it don't come back. Now people have told me that they plant taro roots in a bucket and they bring the bucket in the winter, but that's not permaculture. I'm a very firm believer in planting stuff where it wants to be planted instead of planting what you want to grow. Obviously it's a pretty plant, and if you want to have some potted taro to put out in your yard in the summer and then bring in the winter, that's fine. But don't think of it as a food source, because all the work you're going to have to do bringing that in and out and watering it and fertilizing it is going to burn up more calories than you'll get from eating the plant. If you live in an area that you can't grow taro in, perhaps you can do something with potatoes. I don't know. I know I have tried to make a permaculture crop out of potatoes before, and at the beginning of the new season nothing came up. So potatoes don't keep coming back year after year for me. They may for you. The nutritional value of potatoes is almost identical to the nutritional value of taro, and I'm sure that wherever you live there is something that will grow there that will feed you without any work. Permaculture is a whole lot better than agriculture. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.